Alright, so yes, that was a huge success, that little brief test I did off stream. The character movement has no choppiness to it, and the FPS was consistent. I just put on some music and it's playing like shit right now. That sounds like shit. Let's try this channel. Okay, so as you can see in that picture that I had taken, the game was running consistently above 30, sometimes 40 frames per second when I didn't have OBS running, and the character had none of this choppy glitching around bullshit that you see here. It just wasn't happening. I took a screenshot and you can see. So OBS really is a dampening factor on the frame rate and everything. So the game, I was in 1920 by 1080, full screen, in a window, and was running at full speed with the other continent in the background and the moonlight and the torch on with smoke, and was at 39 frames per second consistently. Was not dropping, was not hitching, was not skipping at all, and that was at 1080. When I was at 720 full screen windowed, it was 60 or above. So I think the open world is optimized. Unfortunately, I can't stream it to show you because that unoptimizes the shit out of it. So it's probably just OBS itself. And yeah, no, I'm just really happy with that quality. And I think actually a better test would be offline, checking out the spawn area. So I should probably do that. So if you stay tuned, I'll just come right back. There's nobody watching right now, or maybe it doesn't know yet. Maybe I can set up the other stained glass. So let's see. Since the image I already have there has red and green on it, maybe I can just switch to a green one. Or maybe I can change it completely. Maybe I can change the skin to blue, change to a different light function, and so I have to see if I can dynamically change the light function. So I have to do that on the blueprint, level blueprint. So the frames per second test was a huge success. So consistent, no hitching. It's all OBS's fault. Very happy about that. So I can put my worries aside. Open world with lots of foliage, runs at 60 frames per second at full screen, 720, 30 frames per second at 1920, 1080. So, and no hitching, no slowdowns, spinning around, running with a torch with full foliage, epic settings. So that's great. When I switch, I guess the switch is on between the two of them. Is here, overlap stained glass, 30-foot stained glass overlay 2. Oops. Alright, and I want this. Alright, so first, let's see. is just, okay, let's just get, I can change the material. That's what I was looking for. Yes. Okay. Okay. We're in business. I'll be right back a second. Alright, sorry for the munching, but... Okay. Sorry. We're gonna make the light function again. Just go to this and find it. Actually, I don't even need to duplicate this guy, I just need to duplicate the function.
I need you.
So I'm actually going to take a different texture sample here too. Let's go with this one. These are open source textures I found somewhere. Take the blue. All right. I forget which one's better. Whatever. $255, okay. Plume tint. Okay. I might have gotten them backwards, quite possible, like left is right, right is left, but you know, just switch them. So let's check it out. I believe that's all I need to do. Oh, the texture on the wall too. Pardon me. Is that something? No, how about this? There we go. Battling. Okay, we're on the wrong side. I could tell by looking at the fire. Just wasn't looking at the right thing. Here we go. Blue side. Go and get some blue stained glass. Click. Bing. Oh, I'm gonna have to replace that. Okay, duplicate this. Ceiling. Opinion stained glass. Blue. Red. I'm just gonna change this to 3. And that should do it. Change the other windows. There's 3 more windows to change. Now we're getting somewhere. Wonder if I can make a more red one for them. That was so easy. That's like all red. What's this 12A look like? I think maybe, yeah, doing 12 might be cool. So I just have to go to that light function and change it to 12. And now I can easily just make infinite different varieties of them by using the monochrome thing, and they're all performant. I should just get rid of this guy completely, the full light one. Although maybe I could make it like a bonus feature for people with high-end systems. I can make it an option like, do you want full color stained glass? Do you have like a 1080 GT gigawatt? Then enable this option to subtract 60 frames per second from your 120 and play like a plebe with extreme graphics. Sorry about the chewing again. I have to do it because if I turn off the mic, I'll forget to turn it back on. It happens every time. Oh. Put this guy on. I guess performance doesn't matter too much. Just want to check it out. I mean, performance does matter. It's why I'm doing this in the first place, but seeing the best possible performance, it's just not even gonna happen. Alright, noob.
Welcome to the halls of creation.
That looks badass. The stance. But yeah, this is the performance you can expect. And even better performance, because there's none of that jitter when I'm not using OBS. But let's check it out. I'm waiting for the same glass light to come on. Is it becoming nighttime, or? Yeah, it's going to nightfall. Okay, so it'll be a minute. What is she doing? The emote stance probably needs a half-second delay, not 0.2. Yeah. Gotta figure out how to make the... I guess when it's inactive, it's... I'm going to use it as a horizon light or whatever it's called. An option. So just waiting for the sun. If the sun don't come, cut the money and run. Waiting for the sun. It's an amalgamation. It's not quite a cover, not quite a mix-up. It's an amalgamation. I like dun 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 to the beat of the song. It's kind of hard, but then it goes into dun 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 dun. Right, the end of the Doors thing. Dun 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 dun. You know, Sunshine of Your Life. That goes into dun 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 dun. Funky Town. So you get the Doors, Sunshine of Your Love, and Funky Town all in one amalgamation, as it were. Oh shit. Alright, I got the colors backwards. So this side is a trippy blue. Which is perfect. It's running in good frames, right? Let's go make sure the other side is in fact red. Let's see, this side is indeed still blue. Oh wait, this side we won't see it, that's right. That side. Run. I'm not seeing it at all. Possibly because that is not red or blue or whatever. Gotta do that. There you go. Now I can do this.
Appropriated by almost any teenager who can learn 3 chords, of course, who can afford the down payment
Why is it frozen up? That wasn't that hard. Okay. That was weird. Oh, probably I need to do trippy. Went vertically this time. You can blueprint any direction you want. Fuck the couch. Fuck the rules. Paint strawberries blue. Because you can. Why we have to hear the same shit over again? I want to put on some Monty Python or something. This is just killing me with the repeats here. I can't. It's just like worse than MTV. Freyed lands. I'm so funny. Okay, maybe I can listen to this guy. I haven't heard his monologue from last night yet. Get some copyright Flagrations. Flagrant violations. Flagrations. Noel Gallagher. Wow, he's so quiet compared to the crowd.
We are very lucky to have the weather we've been having because the East Coast is digging out from another big storm. Flights were canceled, schools were closed, people were trapped in their houses all day and night, unable to go out. Melania Trump was like, now you know I go through it every day. And by the way, where is Melania Trump? We haven't seen her. I think we've seen Snooki more recently than we've seen Melania. But Donald Trump, he was very busy at the White House today. He had a big surprise for everyone. So this just happened. I'll try to summarize. South Korean officials delivered a letter today from Kim Jong-un, the leader of North Korea, to Donald Trump, inviting him to meet and promising to halt his missile test. So the North Korean leader extended an olive branch to Donald Trump, which is a big deal because olive branches are really the only thing they have to eat there. So the president was very excited about this, so excited, in fact, he went into the White House press room where he'd never gone before to tell reporters off the record. And they're like, no, we can't do it off the record. We're in the press room. And then he announced that there would be a major announcement without even telling his own staff there was going to be an announcement. They were caught off guard again. It really is something. It's like the uncle you know will blow a surprise party if you tell him about it. So everybody just keeps it quiet until... But here was the announcement from the South Korean National Security Advisor.
I'd like to thank President Trump, the Vice President, and his wonderful national security team, including my close friend, General McMaster. I explained to President Trump that his leadership and his maximum pressure policy, together with international solidarity, brought us to this juncture. I expressed President Moon Jae-in's personal gratitude for President Trump's leadership.
Okay, that's good. That is a good start because flattery will get you everywhere with the president.
President Trump appreciated the briefing and said he would meet Kim Jong-un by May.
Just waiting in the 2 minutes.
He's not still going to be president by May. We need to get that. This needs to happen by Wednesday. So this is big.
That's the second time I've heard Wednesday.
Donald Trump, just the two worst
How much you want to bet it's actually Wednesday?
Together.
It's too late, many people said the same joke. They always say the same joke. It's like the opposite of Fox News, and then they'll say the same press
Trump comes out of this saying,
notes.
Kim Jong-un, very bright guy, we like each other a lot. They'll be golfing together, they'll be sharing a bucket of chicken.
That was subconscious, and that's just something's gonna happen on Wednesday.
Host of Celebrity Apprentice, who knows where this could lead. But
they're just bracing us for the change, like Men in Black. People weren't waiting.
There was some other interesting news from North Korea today. Their state-run TV is launching a bunch of new soap operas. I always get nervous when I hear North Korea is launching, but this one, the soap operas will reportedly explore themes of patriotism and loyalty in times of war. I think they're doing this backwards because first, maybe get some electricity, then you move on to the soap operas. Otherwise, the audience is limited. But some of their soap operas have a familiar, a very American ring to them. These are the titles. Miserable Days of Our Lives, One Life to Not Live, General Hospital with Insufficient Resources. They even have a version of a popular American sitcom over there. I don't know if you've seen this. It's 2.5 Rod Men. And while none of the new soap operas are on the air yet, they did release a sneak preview of the big one. And I don't know, it looks pretty good to me.
Oh. Wait.
I want bread.
It's the right side.
I want bread.
bread.
I want bread.
I want bread.
I am bread.
The young and the breadless.
Because maybe I didn't explain. Because they have no bed over there. Meanwhile, this Stormy Daniels Husha investigation continues on. This is interesting. Since Trump took office, there's been a renewed focus on abstinence-only sex ed for kids. The Trump administration requested $75 million to fund abstinence-only sexual education programs. We got our hands on their pamphlet, and, you know, initially it was kind of hypocritical for somebody like Donald Trump to endorse something like this, but actually, well, let's take a look. When a man gets married and loves a porn star very much, he strips down to a pair of tidy-whities and a dog shirt and begs a woman to have sex with him in exchange for a spot on a reality show. While having sex, be sure to tell her how great you are at it. If your face is on a magazine, have her spank you with it. Most importantly, after sex, make sure to get her to autograph a DVD. Then have your bodyguard escort her out. And don't forget to have your lawyer threaten her with a restraining order. Congratulations, you just made sex. Don't ever do it again. And that's a message from the Trump administration. You know, I didn't need abstinence education when I was a teenager. I just played the clarinet and it did the trick. Over the years on this show, we've seen a number of local news stories featuring dumb criminals caught on camera, but rarely have those cameras captured anything as delightfully satisfying as this.
A Northern Virginia man is now charged with his third DWI after police say he was hit by his own car.
Yeah, it was caught on camera as he tried to run away from police. 30-year-old Isaac Bonsu is charged with hit and run, failing to stop for an officer, and several other traffic violations. After a short chase, they say he got out of his car to run, but he didn't put that car in park.
Well, that's not a hit and run. That's a run and hit is what it is. He'll probably sue himself. There is going to be quite a battle at the box office this weekend as the Black Panther takes on Oprah. The new movie, A Wrinkle in Time, opens tomorrow night. It's based on the popular novel for kids. And whenever there's a big film like this, we run it by our in-house critic, Yaya. Yaya loves movies and literally has nothing important to do ever. So here is Yaya talking about the movie, A Wrinkle in Time.
Hi, it's me, Yaya. I'm talking about the new movie. The new movie behind me is called Walking the Time. This the movie talk about the magic. Is that Oprah? She's like the magic woman. She's like the queen. She's nice lady. I got 2 pictures with her. She's also Oprah. She do a lot of movie. She do the movie with the course worker, you know, can clean the house. And she do the movie like with the Whoopi Goldberg, you know, like in the farm. And the other guy, this guy, his name Crip, is fine. They have a lot of actor. I think the lady with the blue something in her head, her name Amanda Killian. And the other lady, I like her. She's in that movie too with red hair, Spoon. And also the lady Spoon, she do the movie, it's called Camping. She's Spoon, also she's in the movie Action with Marty Spawner. I don't know who. Oh, Matthew Bryan. The movie, like they change the other time, like the movie is called Go with the Car, and you go back and you change the time. You know, the guy, the short guy, you know, his name is the name of animal, Michael, something. Go watch the movie, trust me and believe me. It's good movie. Oprah in the movie and Spoon. Don't want to watch a movie, up to you. I don't care. This is a good movie. God.
Either do or don't go to see the movie. I'm still not sure which, but thank you. Yeah, we're going to take a break. When we come back from the break, these two families are snowed in. They're on the East Coast, and tonight we're going to warm them with a very heated competition. The snowed-in scavenger hunt is next, so stick around. We'll be right back. stars, high-flying birds is coming, but first, Winter Storm Quinn, as the Weather Channel called, or Winter Storm Quinoa, as the Food Network is calling it, is freezing the East Coast. Roads are closed, schools are closed, people are huddling together for warmth, and so we thought it might be a good idea to have some fun with a pair of families who are stuck at home. It's time for the snowed-in scavenger hunt. Joining us live via Cisco from Socrates, New York, it's the Hemsworth family, Norman, Adele, Caleb, and David. Hi, guys. So, was school canceled today?
No, 2 hours late.
Oh, you went to school today. Oh, what is your dog wearing?
Superhero.
Oh, what is the dog's name?
Rufus.
Rufus. Oh, that is one of the all-time classic dog names. And you guys, your name is the Hemsworth family. We have a very famous Hemsworth family that lives here in Hollywood.
That's right.
Yes. Are you fans of the mighty Thor?
We are very much fans, even from a child as a fan.
Oh, yes, I would think so. And maybe one of you will grow up to marry Miley Cyrus. Who knows how this will work? So you took some pictures of the snow outside your house. That is the view from the window of your home. So we can see that you are indeed snowed in. And Hemsworth, you will be playing against a family from Auburn, Massachusetts. They are the Markowitz family. David, Jessica, Rory, and Hi, guys. How long have you been snowed in?
2 days.
2 days. And have you been home from school, kids?
Unfortunately, yes.
You have. Okay, I see. All right. Well, you got one up on the kids in the other town. You have some photos of the snow
It's
there,
the same
too.
height, though.
And let's look at those. So is that your swimming pool in the back?
It is, yep.
Well, Markowitzes, I want you to say hello to the Hemsworths. And Hemsworths, say hello to the Markowitzes. You'll be competing against each other. Right? Bitter rivals, these families.
Okay,
it's
all this was pointless.
a feud that goes back to 3 minutes ago. But the rules are simple. It's a scavenger hunt. I'm going to ask you to find something or do something. Your job is to find it or do it. I will be the final judge on all matters. You got it?
Okay.
Are you ready to play?
Ready.
Yeah.
Okay. First round, bring back all the hairbrushes in your house. Okay? Most hairbrushes win. Yeah, right. All right. And there we go. Yeah, okay, all right. Well, you got them all already? All right, Hemsworth family. Gather, Hemsworth family, get in your seats there, and let's see what you got. Are those all the hairbrushes in your house?
Welcome.
Hold them up. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know. Okay, is that a hairbrush or is that a sex toy we have there? I don't know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hairbrushes. Markowitz is. You share okay, how many hairbrushes do you have, Markowitz?
There's 1, 2,
yeah.
3,
yeah.
4,
yeah.
5, 6, 7.
We have a time. Oh my God. I don't know how to handle it. I feel like in the event of a tie, we should give it to the family that has a bald guy in it. All right, we're giving that one to the Markowitzes. Your next challenge is go find and come back with the dumbest thing in your house. The single dumbest thing. Sounds like everybody knows what it is. All right. Dumbest thing in the house. Whoever comes back with the dumbest item wins. All right?
Dumbest, I disagree.
This is where I would show my parents my report card. Okay, Markowitz family, what is your dumb
test
item?
by running back and forth like I was before.
It's a cucumber condom.
It's a what? Why are you laughing?
Cucumbers fresh.
That's to keep How do you fit a cucumber in there?
Well, I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory. You put the cucumber in there.
And then it stretches out the length of a cucumber?
It might.
Okay. Should the kids be handling that? All right, Hemsworth family, what is the dumbest item in your house? Okay, well, which one are we going to settle on? What is that? Pink headphones. We've got a blonde wig and what is that, a transformer head? All right, I'm giving this one to the Markowitz family. I'm sorry, but... All right, one more challenge, guys. Bring back the biggest snowball you can make. The biggest snowball. Run outside. Make a ball of snow. Oh, smart. The Markowitzes are... See, this is where we've been thinking ahead. Kids, lock the doors when Mom and Dad go outside. I do enjoy looking in people's houses, just kind of unfiltered. Hey, what's going on? How you doing? How come you... Yeah, maybe I better go help with the snowball. What happened? Oh, that's a good-looking snowball, Hemsworth family. That's a nice size ball of snow. Hold that right up to the camera. Here comes the Markowitz family with an even bigger ball of snow. We're going to have, this is a clean sweep for the Markowitz family. But no one goes home, no one stays home empty-handed. You're all winners because each of you will receive a huge prize packet. Dickie, tell them what they won.
The Hemsworths and the Markowitzes will each receive a new snowblower and Slankets for everyone.
Wow, Slankets for everyone. And the snowblower.
Yep. Okay. It's red.
Thanks for playing.
Still red.
We have a, tonight we have a video. We have, these are from Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds.
See the other side. Scary God stuff.
When did the word value?
It's hard to see, so I'll full screen it for a second. Again, this runs pretty smoothly, and so I don't see the blue. I saw the blue. Oops, I fell out. Okay, well they're definitely backwards. So let's put them back the other way and see what I did wrong about it. Okay, one more time. I could just put this back to being. Oh. Wait. Oh. Well, shit, that would help. Okay. Okay. Now maybe get proper.
Welcome to the halls of creation.
Oh, wrong side, wrong side. No, fuck. Damn it. I'm gonna just save and quit there. What would happen?
Welcome to the halls of creation.
Okay, yeah, this side would be over here. guess it just set again. Yeah, it did. Since it just set anyway, let's try. Cat's freaking stuck. Trust again. This dude. Should be this side. That'll be a minute. Alright, hopefully that'll work this time. I'll open the door just in case. Yeah, this is the kind of performance we can expect from this area. This sound is funny. Left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. But yeah, I don't know if it's coming through on the other side of this, but this is staying above like around 40-50 frames as I'm doing that, which is pretty freaking incredible. And it runs all the much better when OBS isn't open running, so that's even cooler. But we're just waiting. Oh, okay. I think I hitched a little bit there because it might have risen. Started lighting things. Got my first copyright claims for this video. Let's see. Problem of omnipotence? Nah. No. Why do I keep getting these SJW things? I haven't watched a single SJW thing. I've only watched Star Wars as bad things. Wow, all those songs I play. Let me just mute my phone. 15 things you may have missed. Oh, no. What if I miss this? Oh, fuck. It just snapped on as I entered there. And it snaps off as I get out. Seems to, at least. Yeah, I'm running into this other thing. Okay. There's some overlap over there that's like... Okay, there it is. There it is! I got it! There's some overlap over here that's turning it off. But there it is. Okay. That's weird as hell, but I'll fix it. I'm just gonna check the other side if it's read correctly. Let's see, it just went off. Red is on. Red is on. Okay, well, let me just look at the overlap areas then with some music. Or some funny shit. Some Monty Python. Steampunk music. Oh, let's do Monty Python. Let's see what comes up. Okay. I never did watch this. I think. Or that. You can watch individual episodes. Oh, but let's do the It's thing.
The Monty Python story. Good evening. We are here today, Terry Jones's house, one of the 6 pythons. People not carved out of stone, but carved out of something else. They are Python, and here on this very table, the Monty Python television series was written 30 years ago. Crazy sketches that were taken into the BBC, and the BBC said, well, all right, because they didn't know what they got, because they were fools. Here, the albatross that was around John Cleese's neck when he said, albatross, what flavors? Not any bloody flavors, but the albatross flavor. The entire family tree from here to 30 years. The sketches, the albums, the radio times, the matching time, handkerchief, videos, CD-ROMs, everything. The Python story starts here, and it is a story. The Pythons came from ordinary provincial towns, except the American one, who came from Minneapolis. They were clever, good at games, apparently, and listened to the goons.
What's that? Oh, you hear that, Min? What's that? It's the war whoops of the Nakataka Indians.
Oh, are they the ones that commit atrocities?
Yes, Min.
Upstairs in the credit.
At Oxford, Michael Palin was studying history when he met English student Terry Jones. Over in Cambridge, another English student, Eric Idle, was punting with John Cleese, studying law, and medical student Graham Chapman. Terry Gilliam, the American one, was studying political science at a college in Los Angeles. Kind of funny.
Newbie.
At university, their academic
you're using a
took
mouse? I have
second
to
place
sit
to
on the
writing,
mouse.
performing, and being funny. In England, Peter Cook and Beyond the Fringe have proved that you could do this sort of thing for a living. There was never a better time to be clever, eccentric, witty, and looking for that first job in television.
Terry was a script advisor to the comedy department. So it meant you had to write filler material for shows with people like Ross Conway and Ken Dodd. And if we were around, we'd get roped in, and I think one of the first things I ever did with Terry was actually to appear as an extra on the Ken Dodd show.
So it kind of goes...
Mike and I started writing together and writing material for Kathy Kirby's show. I remember doing a Billy Cotton band show and things. And then Mike and I started for the Frost stuff.
Fellow Oxbridge graduate David Frost had made a great impact on television with That Was the Week That Was, and was the perfect producer to encourage new talent into the business.
Well, we were very lucky. We were the first generation who could go straight, really, from university into television. You know, before that, usually people had gone to Fleet Street or somewhere and then moonlit or moonlighted on television. And now we were the first generation to go straight into television.
It was a great sort of experience, really. And particularly, when I say for Mike and I, we did some studio sketches, but we got involved with writing these little visual things, which was to judges when they have a recess.
Okay. Oh, I was moving up.
It was no surprise that John went on to take a prominent role in Frost's next program, at last the 1948 show.
Now, let's see if we can remember our names for this evening, shall we? Bude, don't tell me Bude.
I feel it was Doris, sir.
Well, that's splendid.
Do I have to be Doris, sir? It's such a messy name.
Well, what would you prefer?
Bubbles, sir. Bubbles.
Bubbles. Well, Bubbles it is.
The big break for Michael, Terry G and Eric came with a kids show produced by Humphrey Barclay, where they said, stuff the kids, let's write it for us.
Yes, once again we halt a little bit of London's traffic to bring you Do Not Adjust Your Set.
Tonight, we're going to show you one of the most extraordinary sights ever seen on television screens.
Switch it off. Switch it off.
It was at 5:25 in the evening, and we got a lot of adults came in from work and would switch on to us, so we were getting a great crossover audience.
I am Aladdin. Now for Abanazar. What is your command? Catches. Die, Abanazar. Spare me. Spare him. Spare him? You are spared. I am spared. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. They've done it. They've done it. A new pantomime world land speed record, 1 minute 52 seconds, a new record for Britain. What a performance.
Terry G had recently arrived from America in a big coat. He watched Do Not Adjust Your Set and immediately thought that the program could use some animation and that he should do it.
I went down there with my portfolio of all my drawings plus written sketches, and Humphrey turned out to be an amateur cartoonist, and he liked the cartoons. And I think he took pity on me and bought some written sketches, which he then forced on the others, much to, I think, their chagrin that this interloper had arrived. This somebody from outside was moving into their turf.
So we were there having our pints of beer after the show. And Terry Gilliam comes in, this wonderful fur coat. I just remember all that down to his feet, and a very, very glamorous girlfriend, you know. Hated him immediately.
Eric was the most friendly. He befriends strangers quicker than the rest. And Mike and Terry, I just remember sitting they were in the back of the bar, glowering. Who is this guy with a big coat?
Make enter and exit things.
Terry had what
so otherwise, if he spawned
has
over
now,
here,
it's terrific energy, full of ideas.
You won't see it until you move over here.
That he did these. Animation was his thing, you know, and
that would be better because I'm trying to avoid them overlapping each other.
Well, yeah, why not? As soon as we saw the first, I think it was the Christmas card animation he did. It was just wonderful.
That should be good enough. I do need to make it work for under and overlap eventually anyway. So I'll just like moving around when I do that.
Complete.
I just thought they were very, very funny. And what struck me most of all about Terry's animation, first of all, was his comic timing in them. It was so good. And the way he used sound effects. It was all very simple. It was almost like some child's collage effect. The drawings weren't that elaborate, just moved things around. But the timing was absolutely spot on, and that's what impressed me.
ITV said to us, right, you kids are good. We're going to give you your own adult show. You're going to do 3/4 of an hour. And we said, oh, that's great. So we're having our own TV show now. But they said, well, we can't do it for another 18 months, unfortunately, because we can't give you a studio till then. Thames Television said this. And meanwhile, John and Graham came to us, and all that sort of thing happened where we suddenly did Python instead.
What Thames TV didn't realize is that saying, wait 18 months, is not as sexy as the BBC saying, hey, do you want to do it right now? So this ramshackle group of comedy gladiators were only too happy to mosey round to the Mr. Big of BBC Comedy at TV Centre.
We met up and had this extraordinarily bad sort of job interview where we'd all been put in a room, and Michael Mills, the head of comedy, came in. Said, well, what are you going to call the show? We said, well, we don't know. Well, it's going to, you know, will it have music in it? Well, we don't know. Will it be star guests? Don't know. You know, hopeless. We were absolutely hopeless. And at the end of it, he stood up, looking slightly irritable, and said, all right, I'll give you 13 shows, but that's all.
I think the lovely thing was there wasn't a sign of a spotlight on us from anywhere, and we'd been given this little sort of backwater to play in, and we never thought we'd get on before 11 o'clock on a Sunday night. So we were just able to play, and there was a sense of excitement from quite early on that we were being able to throw out all the conventions that we thought were boring. And I remember one particular meeting when we began to get a sense there was a sort of an energy running, that we were all facing in the right direction, although we couldn't have, or the same direction, where we couldn't have actually defined what it was.
A lot of time was spent on deciding what to call the program. Bun, Whack-It, Buzzard, Stubble and Boot was one. Arthur Megapode's Cheap Show was another. Owl's Stretching Time, my favorite. But they were all abandoned in favor of Monty Python's Flying Circus, which is complete nonsense, but which now seems like a big name in a dictionary and really quite sensible. The Pythons really planned to push the boat out in comedy terms, but just as they were about to push their boat out, they saw
Sir William Blair's A Clear Wind There by 8 birds in the key of E flat.
comedy hero and ex-goon Spike Milligan had already pushed the boat out with his television series Q5.
Here we are for the start of the 400-meter standing still dash. Inside lane is Grandy of Ireland.
So the Pythons realized they had to push the boat out a lot further, or maybe attach a motor to the boat, or get a bigger boat.
They're off. The inside lane was making the game.
Spike suddenly exploded comedy. I suddenly realized we'd all been writing cliches in a way, and that the cliche was a 3-minute sketch which had a beginning, middle and end, the punchline, or you wrote a one-liner, or what we call a blackout sketch, which would be like 30 seconds with one joke.
Stop! You're all wrong! It's John Bluthal of Field with lost for something Freyed.
Spike showed you could change, you could break this up, you could have sketches that went into other sketches, you could sort of have things that didn't have punchlines, you could play around with it.
But just a minute. Who are you? Reveal yourself! Mother!
And it made me start thinking differently. And I can just remember Terry Gilliam had done this animation for Do Not Adjust Your Set.
Elephants in war.
And he'd said, oh, it's a sort of stream of consciousness. It just goes from one thing to another. It's not about anything, really. I don't know whether it works.
The elephant of surprise.
I said, well, maybe you could do that for the whole show. You could have live action and animation, and everything could go in and out of each other and flow on.
With this plan in mind, the Pythons began to write. Eric wrote on his own.
Now I have to build these
John
little
wrote with Graham.
extrusions.
Terry G animated alone. And Michael wrote with Terry J. The writing partnerships were fixed, and the system democratic, though not in the classical Greek sense of the word.
Mike and I think originally we'd started by sitting opposite on tables, writing together, you know, sort of word by word. But we gave that up quite early on, actually, and found that it was much more productive to write alone and then come to each other with written material, read it out, say, that's good, let's use a bit of that, put this together. And then, you know, when you're together, you just make a compilation job.
I joined up with Graham because we'd been writing stuff even together at Cambridge, which would have been 61. Gray's way of working was always to sit on the outside and then to lob an idea or a line from out of left field into the engine room, but he could never be the engine room. If you put the pad in front of Graham and gave him the pencil, nothing would happen. But his embroidering and his weird takes on things, coming in from odd tangents, very frequently breathed life into a sketch that was actually getting rather predictable.
We did all sort of writing from different angles, I suppose. And Graham and John seemed to have session animals and you know, thesauruses and things like that he would use, you know, like the cheese shop is really just a list of great cheeses. They love reference book humour like that.
Liptar? No. Lancashire? No. White Stilton? No. Danish Blue? No. Double Gloucester? No. Cheshire? No.
I suppose Terry and myself were slightly more odd and surreal and I think something like the Spanish Inquisition, for instance, could not have been written by John and Graham in quite the same way.
One on crossbeam's gone out askew on treadle.
Pardon?
One on crossbeam's gone out askew on treadle.
I don't understand what you're saying.
One of the crossbeams has gone out askew on the treadle.
But what on earth does that mean?
I don't know. Mr. Wentworth just told me to come in here and say that there was trouble at the mill, that's all. I didn't expect a kind of Spanish Inquisition.
Nobody expects
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. Our chief weapon is surprise. Surprise and fear. Fear and surprise. Our two weapons are fear and surprise and ruthless efficiency. Our three weapons are fear and surprise and ruthless efficiency and an almost fanatical devotion to the Pope.
I love how the actual joke that lasted wasn't funny at the time. They're like, no one expects the Spanish Inquisition.
I'll come in again.
People kind of laughed at the time, but that's the part that
very
lasted.
much on his own, which he always felt was a little unfair because when he wrote something, in a sense, he only had one vote potentially sitting there, and I know that he felt that was unfair, but at the same time it enabled him to control when he wanted to write, and Eric is a very independent guy. He likes that kind of freedom.
Rumpeltweezer ran the Dinky Tinky shop, in the foot of the magic oak tree, by the wobbly dum-dum bush, in the shade of the magic glade, down in Dingley Dell. Here he sold contraceptives and...
Also working on his own and pleasuring himself
awesome,
with
yeah.
a pen, paper and some scissors was Terry Gilliam.
Discipline.
I had the most freedom within the group, to be quite honest, because I couldn't describe accurately what I was doing until it was there, it was finished. It was a done thing by the time they really saw it.
You shouldn't let it suck on the tummy, my dear. Oh, my God. No! Don't touch it!
And I was the only one in those meetings because I didn't have any written material that could be totally non-political and just laugh openly and react very immediately and simply, because others would even guard their laughter in their response to it, because if that one got in, then their thing might not get in. And in a strange way, I became the audience.
The first program was broadcast on the 5th of October 1969 on BBC One at 10:55 p.m. GMT, or thereabouts. At the recording session, the real studio audience stared at them as if they were 6 pigs playing banjos at a bar mitzvah.
We were very nervous.
Good evening.
There weren't many laughs. The studio audience was probably in shock.
Hello again, and welcome to the show.
And I remember afterwards in the bar, certain people who were quite close friends saying, oh, well, no, I won't have a drink tonight. I've got to dash home, you know, babies. I didn't even have babies. You know, any excuse to go. So it was a touchy time. It wasn't that we all leapt in the air and said, this is a great breakthrough in world comedy. We have broken down the barriers of comedy that we've remembered for years to come. It was just, God, we got through that night, and we've got another chance to do it next week.
Over the next 4 years, Python produced 4 series and 45 episodes of their hit series. Fans began to wear knotted hankies on their heads and watch the show in their millions, and there was a film of favorite sketches made, and now for something completely different. Books and records were released, and they're all packed with weird, crazy writing and memorable characters that we knew would be remembered up to and including a 30-year documentary.
Well, John's obviously the cruel, heartless bastard.
Now, I know some hospitals where you get the patients lying around in bed.
Then Michael was the sweet, you know, and rather slightly ineffective lower middle class person.
I have a silly walk, and I'd like to obtain a government grant to help me develop it.
And Terry was the rat bag woman.
Oh, I wet him.
And Gilliam was anything that had unpleasant makeup jobs. I suppose I played kind of, I don't know, either cheeky people, you know, or kind of up people, optimistic people who are insanely optimistic.
Are you the registrar?
I have that function.
Well, I was here on Saturday getting married to a blonde girl, and I'd like to change, please. I'd like to have this one instead.
What do you mean?
Well, the other one wasn't any good, so I'd like to swap it for this one, please. I paid on Saturday. Here's the ticket.
Terry and I couldn't play authority figures. We're just not terribly believable. Whereas John and Graham look like eminently respectable people from the Foreign Office.
I'm afraid that the Ministry of is no longer getting the kind of support it needs. You see, there's defence, social security, health, housing, education, city water. They're all but last year, the government spent less on the Ministry of City than it did on national defence.
It was a tremendous plus to be able to have people who looked like that and then did extremely silly things.
A very big welcome, please, for the Register of Pensions and the Social Security.
Graham was quite possibly the best actor of all of us. But he used to get scared because he didn't really learn the line in the first place, and then he'd get scared during the day, and then he'd go and have a couple of drinks to sort of calm his scaredness down, and then that would have the inevitable effect, and he'd have 2 more before he went on the air. But intrinsically, I think he was the best actor.
His new play opens at National Theatre tomorrow.
Oh, that's good. Good? Good? What do you know about it? What do you know about getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to fly to Paris, back at the Old Vic for drinks at 12, sweating the day through press interviews, television interviews, then getting back here at 10 to wrestle with the problem of an homosexual nymphomaniac drug addict involved in the ritual murder of a well-known Scottish footballer? That's a full working day, lad.
I wasn't such a good woman. Terry was a very good woman.
Hello, Mrs. Rogers? No? Oh, I must be in the wrong house.
Lovely sort of homely, mum-like figure. And Eric was this slightly sort of exotic sort of spinster who had a bit of a naughty time sometime in their life.
Last week on Party Hints, I showed you how to make a small plate of goulash go around 26 people, how to get the best out of your canapes, and how to unblock your loo. I'm going to tell you what to do if there's an armed communist uprising near your home when you're having a party.
And John was just this sort of real sort of... How can I describe it, really?
How do you do? How do you do?
The Pythons played a lot of female characters themselves, but if they ever needed a female character you were actually attracted to, they called on Carol Cleveland.
The fellas were always apologizing to me for not having more for me to do. Now, they did write very well for the older women, which they played themselves so well, far better than I could, but they couldn't write funny parts for young women.
Are you the marriage guidance counsellor?
Yes, good morning.
Morning, sir.
And good morning to you, madam.
They'd only written 5 scripts to begin with, and I think I got 3 of them prior to filming. And I read through them and thought, well, some of it was very funny. Some of it, admittedly, went right over my head. And some of it, the rest of it, I just thought was plain infantile. I mean, what is this all about? So I just threw myself into it, and gradually came round to thinking, hey, this is great stuff. It's silly, it's bizarre, it's clever, it's wonderful.
What seems to be the trouble with your marriage, Mr. Pewty?
Well, it all started about 5 years ago. We started going on holiday to Brighton together. Deirdre, that's my wife, has always been a very good companion to me. I never particularly anticipated any marital strife.
She was used very much in a sexual role whenever there had to be real sex. And we would nick all the other parts where you had to be just like cheeky women, you know, silly old ugly women. And she was very tolerant and very good at that. And I think she was a female it was a stooge, largely.
You suspected your wife?
Well, yes.
Looking back on his early work, Terry Gilliam is baffled by how he created such weird stuff.
When I do see them by mistake, I'm always surprised by them. I look at the animation and I'm kind of amazed by it because the guy who did it isn't me.
Henry, turn that television off. You know it's bad for your eyes.
I mean, it's somebody else that did that. I mean, I recognize some of me in it, but it's not. And I don't know how I thought of those things. Quite honestly, I look at it, Jesus, what was my mind doing? How did I get to that point?
Despite the success of Python and the winning of a prize at the Montreux Film Festival, John had been restless for some time, and by the end of Series 3 he decided to leave the group, like a penguin leaves the other penguins, and jumps into the water and swims off.
Because he'd written the Frost Report for 3 years beforehand, he ran out of steam writing the 3-minute sketch much sooner than everybody else did, which is why he wanted to leave much sooner than everybody else. He'd done it.
I felt very much that we were repeating ourselves. I felt that Gray and I only wrote 2 genuinely original things in the whole of the last series, and I think they were Dennis Moore and the Cheese Shop. And I just felt that everyone else's material was also repetitive, and that if anyone said a sketch, I could say that's that sketch from the first series combined with that sketch from the second series, and a little bit of that sketch from the second series too. And once you could begin to identify sketches like that, I thought, why are we doing it? Whereas the other guys liked the process. And I was carrying Graham, and there was no chance that anyone was going to start writing with him. And I also wanted to move on.
As their TV life came to an end, the Pythons, including John, found themselves wanting to work on a bigger canvas. Seeing as they could all spell the word history, they decided to produce a film of the quest for the Holy Grail.
Charlie, you come to this mark there, to where Tuco is. Tuco even further.
Filming Holy Grail was just a nightmare. We had 5 weeks to film it, and we're shooting up in Scotland. And we just, I mean, everybody said, you can't shoot it in this time, and there's no way you can do it. And we just knew we just had to try and get through it all.
You can to start with.
I just remembered being cold and damp, and you could tell what time of day it was by how far the wet had soaked up your woolen armour.
We used to put on this absurd chain mail, which was nothing more than knitted string, and there was no money at all. So we'd get up on this Scottish mountain at 8 o'clock, and it would rain, and there'd be no umbrellas, and we would simply stay wet for the rest of the day. And then at 6:15, there was this mad rush to get back to the hotel because there was enough hot water for 40% of the cast and crew. It was just a nightmare. And yet, there was a good feeling that there were funny stuff, you know. If you feel you're being funny, you can put up with almost anything.
I think it was an instinct at work. We kind of knew when things were going to be right. And, I mean, Graham was, maybe by default he got King Arthur, but he was absolutely superb. He was a really good actor, Graham.
Go and tell your master that we have been charged by God.
I never knew that was Jeremy Chapman. I thought that was just some other random actor. He's so good.
For the night, he can join us in our quest for the Holy Grail.
You know, this sort of patient, baffled, bewildered earnestness.
Well, I'll ask him, but I don't think he'll be very keen. He's already got one, you see. What? They've already got one. Are you sure he's got one? Oh, yes, it's very nice.
He had a problem which we didn't really realize. Nobody realized quite how much into the alcoholism he was at the time.
Can we come up and have a look? Of course not. You are English types. Well, what are you then?
If you look at the outtakes, he couldn't remember a line. So it's all, the outtakes would go something like this. My name is Arthur. Yes? King of the Britons. King of the Britons. Yes? Whose castle is this? I wish to see him, you know, so we were always forced to cut back to us in all these takes. But he would do his lines perfectly. It was good with Graham being the leader.
If you do not agree to my commands, then I shall...
The film did make a lot of money, and I think it made $12 million. And on the basic investment, that was a fantastic turnover.
The film was a big old success and acquired some interesting fans.
I went to Graceland, because I'm a big Elvis fan, and they had Elvis's video collection had been kept there, and there was Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Apparently it was one of Elvis's favourite films, and he used to recite chunks as well. Elvis used to do the knights who say,
Who are you?
Awesome.
We are the knights who say...
Elvis and Monty Python. I just can't see that working, but he loved it.
And I say, me.
Holy Grail was released in the States, and the Python TV series was first aired on a local network in Dallas, and then went all across the US. Everyone expected Python to sink without a trace, but weirdly, it didn't, man.
Most Americans were laughing at things they didn't have any idea what the references were. But it's that sheer strangeness and the sense of timing, and like all good comedy, timing. And it had just the characters, the visuals, the drag. It comes back once again to drag. And there's nothing funnier than Terry Jones in a wig. And I'm sorry, he's attractive in a wonderful way. In a kind of a French-Italian...
Yes. Anyway, I think I'd better be going.
You've got a nice torch, haven't you?
When it came on, I used to play on Sunday evenings, and it kind of replaced religion for me. That was my Sunday ritual. Sunday evenings, tune in the Pythons, and I just loved it.
I've always assumed it's an explanation, but it's not one I'm sure about, that somehow the characters that we did were kind of archetypes, because they seem to have rung bells with people, even in Japan.
You don't have to, you know, have a PhD to understand Ministry of Silly Walks. It's funny if you showed it to an 8-year-old. It's funny because it's, look at that silly walk.
I think I was in about 3rd grade, so I was about 8 years old when I first saw it. And you know, the irony is that for us, that was the dirty little show that the kids weren't supposed to watch. And then, of course, we would all go to school the next day and talk about it. And you had to sneak downstairs and you know, turn it on. And if Mom caught me, she would be very angry, because I was supposed to be in bed, first of all, but also just because of what I was watching.
They can make a thing
you know, because there was titties. I mean, that was the key.
Makes all that
but
invisible.
it was really, you know, being 8 years old, that was my introduction to humor, really.
Python just, it gave me something like when I was growing up in like any town, USA, like just something that I felt was like mine, and I felt like it gave me like, I don't know, just some kind of edge on humor that other people didn't see. Like, I felt like, probably for not probably wasn't a good thing, but in a cocky way, I felt like I saw humor in a bigger, better, wider way than other people who were just sitting around watching, you know, I don't even know what the hell kind of comedy was. Three's Company and stuff like that.
Although the TV series of Python was an ex-parrot, by the mid-70s the Pythons were taking part in a huge amount of acting, writing and directing. A big old list of memorable projects. Ripping Yarns, The Ruttles, Jabberwocky and Faulty Towers. But Monty Python lived on in stage shows for Amnesty International, and Python junkies could now see their favorite sketches being performed live.
I wish to register a complaint. Sorry, we're closed for lunch. Never mind that, my lad. I wish to complain about this parrot, what I purchased not half an hour ago from this very boutique. Oh, yes, the Norwegian blue. What's wrong with it? I'll tell you what's wrong with it, my lad. It's dead, that's what.
I particularly enjoyed those shows again, those Amnesty shows, because we used to go on in the theatre after the evening show, whatever was on there, had stopped. You know, that audience would leave, and then an hour later our audience would arrive. And it started at about 11 o'clock. And there was a nice feeling that everyone knew it was going to be a little bit rough, because it was a charity show and it was late at night. And that rough edge, in a funny kind of way, made it more fun for me. And I always have enjoyed performing with Michael, because we kind of tried to break each other up.
He's done! Stunned? Yeah! You stunned him just as he was waking up. Norwegian blues stun easily. Now listen, matey, I've had enough of this.
John was very good at that, and he'd throw extra lines in or just look at me in a certain way, and I'd crack up, and similarly with him too. And I seem to remember that, having a great time, but being very naughty and cracking up an awful lot.
Oh, he's probably pining for the field. Time for the fjords! Time for the fjords! What kind of talking about? No, this is nothing to laugh at.
Even though the Pythons were now on solo projects, the success of Holy Grail and the desire to work together again produced one of the most controversial of their films, but also their happiest experience as a team.
At the opening of Holy Grail, when some interviewer said, "What's your next film going to be?" And I said, "Jesus Christ, Lust for Glory." And that got a big laugh.
And so we started sort of writing various little sketches that might or might not fit in, and gradually this idea of it being about somebody called Brian, who lived a life absolutely parallel to Jesus, but wasn't Jesus, but was mistaken for Jesus, came about. And Eric knew somebody had a house for hire in Barbados, and we all agreed to go there and write. And I remember being a little bit sort of cautious about when we could really write. It's such a sort of paradise, typical sort of old English granny-ish view I had of these things. It turned out to be a very successful writing period. Probably the best time for us all working together. And we were out in Monastir, we were out in the sunshine, which was quite pleasant.
Brenda over here. We had a bit more money, so we could afford a hotel room each, and it was in Tunisia, which was quite pleasant. I think it was, and we decided that only one person should direct, and so Gilliam did the art direction, and Jonesy did the direction, and that was sort of spared them both agonies.
It was trying to find a way of working so that what I did was, I did what I was good at and didn't get frustrated and crazed by the other side of it. So Terry and I split, and he directed it, and I designed it. The little spaceship sequence in the middle was a way of escaping from animation and do live action stuff with models and special effects and learning how to do it. We didn't have any special effects people, so we went down to the local joke shop, bought all these exploding cigars, emptied the gunpowder out, took a light bulb, broke the glass part using the filament as the sparking device, and made the explosion. It was great because we had nothing, no money, no time, and we just had to fake it. And it's always been, to me, the best way of learning under those conditions, rather than being given everything. Going out there with the best technicians, with the best designers. You don't learn that way. I mean, my attitude is always try to learn by making the mistakes myself.
What's my notification?
Lucky bastard.
By this time, Graham had become a reformed character. He'd stopped being this, enormously messed up alcoholic. And his real natural character came out, and he was finally able to do things without alcohol and learn his words, and he knew all his words suddenly. He didn't have to fight his nerves with this dreadful alcohol thing. So he was a sort of saint on Brian. He really was.
Let me speak to them, won't you? Good idea, because citizens!
We had to have this crowd laughing at Graham's speech impediment as a lithbap, and Mike as somebody who can't pronounce his R's. So we got in I think a Tunisian comedian along. We thought, well, we'll get him talking, and then we'll shoot them laughing. And of course, it didn't really work, really. So after a while, I sort of I got up and I said to the assistant director, I said, just tell them to do what I do, all right? So he's and I sort of started laughing hilariously, and then fell on my back and wagged my legs in the air. And to my absolute delight, the entire 500 all laughed anyway, because of, and then fell on the floor and waggled their legs in the air, and they thought they'd never had such a good time in their life. And the dust rose, and it looked wonderful. But of course, we weren't turning over because I was just asking them I was trying it out, And then we shot it, but it was never quite as funny as that first time. They never laughed quite the same way.
Well, it's something I said.
Even though Brian had a strong storyline, the great sketches or scenes still jump out at you.
Still falling through, and I think the stained glass side is still on.
No one is to stone anyone
until I blow this whistle. Do you understand? Even, and I want to make this absolutely clear, even if they do say Jehovah.
He's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy. Now go away.
What's this then? Romanes eunt domus. People call Romanes, they go the house. It says Romans go home. No, it doesn't. All right, but apart from the sanitation, the medicine, education, wine, public order, irrigation, roads, a fresh water system and public health, what have the Romans ever done for us?
I'm Brian of Nazareth.
What?
Yeah, I'm Brian of Nazareth.
Take him down. I'm Brian of Nazareth. I'm Brian. I'm Brian.
The Pythons called their film The Life of Brian, but to many Christians, they thought it was the life of Jesus. But Jesus is very different spelling to Brian.
I never felt really threatened by sort of people close to home until I suppose that John and I went on this late night programme where it was debated with Malcolm Muggeridge and the Bishop of Suffolk.
I simply don't think it was worth the audio. It was the sort of thing, as I say, that at Cambridge the footlights did on a damp Tuesday afternoon, or the lower fourth when I was a schoolmaster.
When we had that confrontation with Southwark and Muggeridge, my experience was that I quite enjoyed it. And it was because I felt that we were winning the argument.
400 years ago, we would have been burnt for this film. Now, I'm suggesting that we've made an advance.
And I'm suggesting...
So I quite enjoyed it, and it was only afterwards I discovered how angry and upset Michael had felt.
This is such a 10th grade film that I don't believe that it would disturb
Yes, I know you started with an open mind, I realise that.
I watched this recently.
It was wrong as we were doing it, and you, all right, criticise us, attack us, give us a hard time, but don't dismiss us, which they were trying to do, and there was a lot of hands together and said, well, I don't think. And I think
Still
Merlin
falling
stopped
through
what
it.
the Bishop of Southwark said in the end.
You'll get your 30 pieces of silver, I'm quite sure.
The adverse publicity only served to make the film even more popular and high profile. Meanwhile, going from strength to strength, the Pythons carried on with their varied and successful solo careers. Michael began his travel programs, Terry G directed Time Bandits, and together all the Pythons performed live at the Hollywood Bowl. Once again, the lure of working together proved to be strong. But the writing wasn't as easy for their fourth film, The Meaning of Life.
I think the writing on Meaning of Life was quite hard. I think it wasn't quite the same as it had been, and also making the film. I mean, it was like Meaning of Life. In all the other films, everybody was always around, and it was always possible to get people to chip in and consult with people. Meaning of Life was very much everybody filmed it and went off and did their own things, and so it was didn't feel quite so much of a group effort in a way.
I never enjoyed Meaning of Life. I always regarded that entire film as a bit of a cock-up.
It didn't have the smooth development dynamic that something like Life of Brian had. We had to keep pushing it. You got stuck in the middle of the road. Oh, write a few more sketches, push it a little further towards the end. And eventually we got 90 minutes or 100 minutes, whatever we got. And I don't think it holds together as well as other Python films, but I think it contains, in things like sort of Mr. Creosote, for instance, some of the most extraordinary images that we've done and some of the funniest material.
Ah, good afternoon, sir, and how are we today?
Better.
Better?
Better get a bucket. I'm going to throw up.
Gaston, a bucket for monsieur.
One of the sketches that didn't work when we first read it out was the Mr. Creosote sketch, is the fat man throwing up in the restaurant. And I think it was just after lunch, and Mike read it out, and nobody thought it was funny. It was just one of those things. It just went to the bottom of the parlour, and I felt, Mike and I were convinced that was one of our funniest sketches. And that went to the bottom of the pile. And then about a month later, John rang me up and said, "Oh, well, little Plum, I think something to bring a smile to your face. I just read that Mr. Creosote sketch. I think it could be really funny." And then he and Graham wrote the wafer-thin mint thing for the ending.
Finally, monsieur, a wafer-thin mint. Oh, sir, it's only a tiny little thin one.
Now, fuck off, I'm full.
Oh, sir. It's only a wafer thin.
Look, I couldn't eat another thing. I'm absolutely stuffed. Bugger all.
Yes, just one. Oh, just one. Just the one. Yeah. Voila. Bon appétit.
The film looks really good. And it won the jury prize at Cannes, which was fabulous too. We played it, and on the jury, we played Mr. Creosote, and on the jury was Orson Welles, who at that time was closest to being Mr. Creosote in real life than anybody possibly, eating with both hands, I think. And they voted it the jury prize. They wanted to make it the best film. And one of the writers on there said, no, you can't do this. So we only got the jury prize. Damn them bastards.
With the meaning of life now completed, the Pythons were hitting their stride in their solo careers. As ever, the projects were many and varied. Books, travel programs, films directed, written, a whole bunch of stuff. With perfect comic timing, on the eve of their 20th anniversary, Gray and Chapman ceased to be.
I was very, very glad, you know, I'm so fortunate when this is possible actually to be there when he died. Michael and I were there, and Peter Cook, I think, and David Sherlock, of course, and I think there were one or two others. And somehow being there and then having that amazingly cathartic memorial service afterwards, one felt that one had been through it. And I guess that we're all thinking how sad it is that a man of such talent, of such capability for kindness, of such unusual intelligence, should now so suddenly be spirited away at the age of only 48, before he'd achieved many of the things of which he was capable, and before he'd had enough fun. Well, I feel that I should say nonsense. Good riddance to him, the freeloading bastard. I hope he's tried.
For the Pythons today, demand is still high, pulling them all off in different directions. But what everyone still wants to know is, will the Pythons ever work together again? The question kind of pisses them off, but it still hangs over them like a large albatross wearing a big woolly jumper.
We got an offer to do a 6-week tour of American cities with a $10 million guarantee. And we were going to have film festivals in each city before we got there, and then they would have all the books, the records, and we would just come in and we'd do Python, say goodbye, and everybody said yes to this, and then Michael came back from one holiday and said no, you know, and he went... So at that point, I realized that we would never, ever agree on anything ever again.
There is pressure, always, to reform, and I think probably something that one should resist. But that's been an unpopular view in the last year, one which I have held, and yes, I felt that Python's a bit ratty, but I think it's probably best to remember us for all the good work that we did, and clamber up on stage and sort of crutches and sort of medical support, and try and do the sketches all over again.
Need some light up there.
It is fun to be together, and we do have a good time when we finally get together, but it's just such a nightmare getting everybody together. It's life's too short in the end.
What worries me is there's a standard that we're going to be measured by. It's the one we set, and that's dangerous. And I think there's nothing more embarrassing than a bunch of middle-aged old farts trying to recreate the halcyon days of Python humor.
Maybe in 3 years' time, the spirit will change, and we'll all think we'll be dead soon, so we'll do, I don't know. But not in the foreseeable future.
I think actually, as far as a reunion is concerned, this is it. Sorry, chaps.
So,
how do you end a documentary like Python? Because Python believed in no endings, man. So I thought, here, we should have no ending. We're not going to stop, we're not going to say stop, we can't, we can't, just, because you'd expect that, it's predictable, documentary end, but no, we're just going to go, where's Terry Jones is? He's upstairs, he's up there, his wife Al up the stairs, we have to get out of him, tell him to shut up early, so it's not going to end, it's not going to end in honor to Python, man, just going to.
Great. That's really good. That was 45 seconds, that was the right length.
We haven't finished yet, we're still going.
That's good.
So how do we end?
Hmm?
No.
Let's see.
In 1979, a comedy feature film quickly became one of the most controversial pieces of cinema in history. No film had ever before satirized Christianity so blatantly.
See, not so bad, watch your up.
And it caused outrage.
I mean, it's so disgusting when you think of it, when all you've done is to make a lot of people on a cross singing a music hall song.
A group of rabbis and priests held demonstrations over this past weekend, and they were demonstrating against a movie called The Life of Brian.
Protesters around the world marched against The Life of Brian. It was dropped by financiers, banned by councils, states, even entire countries. But it still managed to get shown and still managed to offend seemingly every world religion.
These people are operating at a very, very low level of mental health. They are incapable of understanding the teaching.
What happened to sticks and stone can break my bone, but words can never hurt me.
This is the story of one of the greatest films and one of the greatest cultural battles of modern times. During the 1970s, Monty Python's Flying Circus became one of the most influential comedy programs Britain has ever produced.
One of the crossbeams has gone out askew on the treadle.
What on earth does that mean?
I don't know. Mr. Wentworth just told me to come in here and say that there was trouble at the mill, that's all. I didn't expect a kind of Spanish Inquisition.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. Our chief weapon is surprise. Surprise and fear. Fear and surprise. Our two weapons are fear and surprise and ruthless efficiency. Our three weapons are fear and surprise and ruthless efficiency and an almost fanatical devotion to the Pope. Our four. No.
It's probably compiling
the
that
Python
shit.
team were comedy superstars. They'd made 3 series of the TV show and become cult stars in the UK and US. The release of their first feature film, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, propelled them to even greater.
I will be back. Hopefully this will have compiled.
Welcome to the halls of creation.
Oh, sorry. Mic off again for a while there. I gotta go eat my lunch, but yeah, enjoy the view of these two dudes just standing there emoting. Yeah, man. It's supposed to be scary. No, actually, it's just characters blocking the exit. The new exit from the spawn area. They're just in the way. Oh, I don't know what the passwords are. I have massively improved the frame rate though by reducing the stained glass to a single light color, but then I realized I can just work with it so it's not a doesn't saturate, flood the whole thing with color. So also I tested with OBS off and got a solid like 60 frames a second at 720 full screen. No dipping and diving. Anyway, so I've got stained glass now and the frame rate is just like so much better. Like I finally optimized this shit. It's just coming through right now too. This is cool. Grab a character so I don't have smoke here. Here we go. Get my red picture. And then on the other side, I got this guy in the middle. And there we got the blue. So that makes sense, right? Yeah. Got some blue light on the blue side. Wait a second. What's that? Looked funky. I've fixed the walking backwards animation. It does hitch occasionally because I'm streaming, but when playing it doesn't hitch. Oh yeah, I think I'm just gonna do one more test on my own without stream OBS, so and be done for now. I'll catch you later.